Hello and welcome back to my channel, Discovering Des. My name is Des. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And ring that notification bell to be the first person to know when I upload a video. Today I am coming to you with a review of Tyler Perry's A Fall from Grace. I'm not really going to go frame by frame with this review. I'm just going to touch on a few things, and it's my goal to get up out of here quickly. I don't really have a lot to say, so it's my goal not to be in front of you all very long, but I would like to call Mr. Perry to the stand. Mr. Perry, I have a few questions for you, but just wait a second, we'll get there. A Fall from Grace. What a perfect title for this movie, because I feel like that honestly describes where we're at with Tyler Perry. You have never been held to a very high standard in my eyes, and that's no shade, no tea, no pink lemonade, but you're good at what you do, my friend, but you could be so much better if you listen to other people, or if you just work with other people in general. Because it seems to me that a lot of the problems that we are encountering as far as Tyler Perry Productions stems back to the writing room. If you've been following Tyler on social media recently, you've seen that he released a video of him with several scripts laid out of his series and movies and all of the things. And he went on to boast that he was the sole writer and creator of all of these productions, and I don't know if he thought that was applause worthy or that we'd give him a cookie for that. I am not really sure what happened there, because you have all this energy to write, but when we got to this movie, we obviously left out a few things. Because there were several scenes where I just had to go back and rewind, because I was confused. I thought I'd missed something. I thought maybe I was on the phone and I was scrolling. I was not paying attention, but there were some issues here with your writing. Not just your writing, your production in general. We're gonna start with the wigs. The wigs. You've seen the wigs on the timeline. You've seen them on Instagram. Most of the ladies' wigs were good, but when we got into our men, I don't know why Shannon needed a box. He could have had a short crew cut. He could have been bald. You could have left him how he was, because I'm sure he was an attractive young man without the man weave, but the way that box was just sitting up there and it looped back like that, I was concerned. I was distracted. And I was just outright offended that you put that black man on Netflix like that. Like, why would you do that? Why? You're in Atlanta. You have the best of the best when it comes to manipulating synthetic hair. And while we're on the topic of synthetic hair, I'm gonna skip into about the middle of the movie. This lady hops in the shower and she just lets water run all through this synthetic hair. I've never owned a wig, never worn a wig, never needed to. But I've been friends with enough females, and I have enough women in my family to know that when you get in the shower, you're not running that weave through anybody's shower head. And I was just like, where is the verisimilitude? Like, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, Tyler. I'm going to give you the gist of the plot of this movie, and then we are going to dig into, we're going to dig into Tyler Perry. A Fall from Grace. A Fall from Grace centers Grace Waters. Grace Waters is a middle-aged African-American woman who is being charged with the murder of her husband. Her case is picked up by Jasmine, and Jasmine is an amateur public defender. She is given this case by her boss, who is played by Tyler Perry. Again, the wigs, I'm really not feeling it. Tyler, you could have been bald and done the same job. You don't have to be salt and pepper, gray beard, curly cues up here, and you look crazy, and I don't get why you put yourself through that. You've seen the man weaves online, you've seen them on Instagram, you've seen them on Twitter. I just don't get why you're in Atlanta at the Grand Tyler Perry Studios and y'all can't get somebody down there to handle that mess on top of your head. I have questions and some concerns. Jasmine's not very confident in her ability to handle this case at all. She is used to giving out plea bargains, negotiating those. The DA wants this case to go away quickly. He expects her to negotiate a plea deal and they go ahead and knock it out so that the media attention on this case can cease and that they can get back to focusing on something else. Jasmine seems to be okay with that plan for the time being, but she soon meets Grace. I said, Jasmine is so used to giving up plea bargains, she's never really had a chance to try an actual case. We come to learn that she is considering ending her career in the legal field overall and just stepping into something different. So she is basically trying to stay in the business, pay Sallie Mae, and collect some coin in the process. And girl, I feel you. He meets with Grace again to discuss the case. And this scene, Grace breaks down once Jasmine goes over the parameters of her potential deals. The way Jasmine skirts out of the interview room as Grace breaks down, that's just, it was really cringy. Like, you really gonna leave her like that? You're not gonna console your client at all? You're not gonna pat her on the back? You're not gonna say, here girl, here's a tissue? None of that. You gonna let her weep and you just gonna walk out and you ain't gonna say nothing? What kind of writing is that? No public defender, lawyer, attorney, or anything is gonna let their client just sit there in distress and you're not gonna console them in any way. Like, I didn't get that. Jasmine then goes to meet Sarah. Sarah is played by Phylicia Rashad. Sarah is one of Grace's friends. We see that Sarah has a tenant house. Looks like it's for older women. You see a shadow in the window that we know that we're obviously going to encounter at some point later. Couple things production wise with this scene. This is one of the scenes where I had to go back and rewind. I think I had to go back and watch this 3 times. So Sarah's making tea on the stove. I hear the kettle whistle. I see her pouring tea, and this is really small. But they pour the tea from a steaming hot kettle. I heard it whistle, so I know there's steam. And there's no steam coming out of either mug once the tea is prepared. I know that's small, but I saw it. Sarah goes on to tell Jasmine a little bit more about Grace and what Grace has been through. Grace has been married twice. Grace has a son and is also married. I believe he's in his mid-20s. I don't even know if they get into that really as far as his age. Once her son got married, she saw a change in Grace. Grace was then invited to an art gallery showing, and Grace ended up going and she met a new man. He seemed to sweep her off of her feet. They seemed to hit it off very well. They eventually start dating. He finds out where she works at, so he's dropping off flowers and all of that good stuff. And then it rolls on. They keep dating and they eventually get engaged and they get married. It's important to note that there is an age difference between Shannon, the man that she met, and Grace herself. They don't get into exactly what the age difference is, but that obviously plays into the dynamic of their relationship. That's why Grace seemed to be a little hesitant as Shannon was pursuing her. So Sarah is talking to Jasmine about Grace, and then we see Cicely Tyson sneaking around in the background again. She doesn't say anything. Jasmine says hi and she scurries along. Sarah kind of gets the hint that Jasmine is Saw, Cicely Tyson's character, and then she literally puts Jasmine's jacket on her for her and escorts her out the door. So she's like, ma'am, you ain't gotta go home, but you gotta get out of here. Jasmine's just starting to see that something just isn't right. Grace goes on into further detail about meeting Shannon. Shannon, again, the wig, I don't have any words. Like, the way that box went, and then it flipped back a little bit on the edges right there. I don't get it. Like, that was the worst 27 piece I've ever seen, and I've seen some bad ones. Yeah, Grace is going on to reflect on her time with Shannon. One production thing, she looks at a message, I believe it's from Shannon, and her phone has a message, but if you look closer, it's in the gallery of the phone, the photo gallery of the phone. So she's looking at a screenshot. I don't know how they didn't pick that up in post-production. There's a date there that says like December something. If you look up at the top of the phone, it says no SIM card. I don't know how you missed that. He ends up proposing. Then the story ends, and Grace just wants to go ahead and sign the plea bargain. So she goes ahead and signs it. We then go back to the plot line with Grace and Shannon, how their relationship is developing. So they've gotten married at this point. They are cohabitating, living in Grace's house. Grace wakes up one night to find his spot empty. She goes downstairs and he is on the phone with an undisclosed individual. She's like, yo babe, who you talking to? Like, what's going on? It's middle night. And when I tell y'all, he let her have it. He was like, two things I don't like happening. I don't like being checked up on, and I don't like being questioned, and you're doing both of those right now, so I'm gonna need you to back up. And he nicely went on with his evening. I assume she went back to bed, and he went on about his business. And at that point, he had turned it. He had turned the whole relationship around. Girl, she gets to work. She's telling Sarah all the tea. She gets an alert that she needs to go to the conference room, and that's when I know he done ran one on her. She is missing over $300,000 from her work accounts, and they're like, ma'am, you need to run us our change. Give me that and pack up your stuff in the process because you're done here. And she goes through, it wasn't me, somebody must have stolen my identity, all of that. So he helps her try to figure out what it is, and that's just like a man, to help you look for something and knowing damn well they done stole it. She goes to the bank and try to get things straightened out at her financial institution. He's taking out a mortgage on her house. She's owned that house for 4 years, and he's refinanced the house for another couple $100,000. I don't get it. This man is still walking around. He is treating her like trash. Treating her like trash now. And at this point, she doesn't even know. She doesn't even know that he has refinanced the house. She confronts him about the phone call from the other night. And it happens to be he was doing a photo shoot for some cancer patients and all this jazz. He gets into the whole identity theft thing. Grace pulls video footage from the bank. How Grace got this video footage on her phone, Tyler, I don't know. But I'm glad she had it to confront him with. Shows him going into the bank and meeting him with financial officers and all that jazz and refinancing her house. So she knows that he has done all this stuff at this point. And he's like, what are you talking about, refinancing your house? We're married. This is ours. This is ours. So whatever I do with our stuff is my business because it's done. I have just as much power over it as you do at this point. And girl, Grace let him have it. At this point, he's taken everything from her, and she can't even afford a lawyer to fight it. The cops won't kick him out. Nobody won't take his behind nowhere. He ends up bring another woman into their house. Grace walks in on them. He puts Grace out the room, continues doing the do with old girl, and then walks old girl out all over Grace. At that point, Grace has just had it. Like I said, she's done. At this point, she picks up her hot sauce. She picks up her hot sauce, in the words of Beyonce. She kept some hot sauce in the corner. So she picked up her bat and gave him full Lizzie Borden. Whack, whack, whack. Like, she laid into Shannon. There's blood all over the living room, and then she disposes of the body. She drags this boy down the stairs with ease and goes on about her night, drives off into the woods, makes phone calls, and does all the things. So we go back to Jasmine, and Jasmine's still digging. She's met with Sarah again. She soon comes to learn that Sarah was called by Grace to come to the house that night. And Sarah then goes on to share that Grace's son happened to be leaving the house at the same time that she was arriving. Grace may be trying to protect her son. That's why she's so hell-bent on pleading guilty, to just go ahead, serve the time, and her son walks free. We end up in court, and this is the worst court sequence that I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's so cringy. It's like Jasmine's opening statement. I muted it. Like, I didn't care what she had to say to open up that argument, because after like the first 20 seconds, I'm like, she's talking in circles and it doesn't make any sense. She's not convincing anybody. And like Nene said, if you say it enough out loud, you might convince Hope, because you ain't convincing me. I'm not sure what that was. I'm really not. The trial continues, and Jasmine decides to get Sarah to take the stand. Sarah ends up taking the stand, and she is caught up by the prosecution. Sarah has been trying to hide the fact that she had talked to Grace at all that night, and the prosecutor pretty much cracks down on that. And Sarah folds like a cheap funeral home chair. The boss tears Jasmine down after that court session. Jasmine and her boyfriend, they get into it. They have an interesting little dynamic there. I'm not really sure if they're right for each other. He's a police officer, she's a lawyer. There's a lot going on in that relationship. They are at the last day of court. Jasmine is obviously losing at this point. She is being held in contempt because she wanted to call Sarah back up to the stand, and the judge is like, no. And Jasmine's like, yes. And the judge is like, no. And Jasmine's like, yes. And then the judge is like, go to hell. And then Jasmine's like, I'll go to jail. And that put Jasmine in jail. And then Grace is sentenced. And as Grace is exiting the courtroom, child, she looks over at Sarah consoling her son. And guess what Sarah has on? Sarah has on Shannon's necklace that she noticed at the art gallery, child. The unique one, the one from Africa. Yep, she has on that boy's necklace. Grace is now thinking, what the fuck is going on? Jasmine ends up going back to Sarah's house to visit her and see if she can get any more tea on what's going on. As she arrives to Sarah's house, she sees Cicely Tyson walking in the street, and Cicely's like, no, I gotta get away. But she's giving senile, she's giving a very elderly tea. So she's trying to guide her back to Sarah's house. Like, ma'am, you don't know what you're talking about. Let's go. We're gonna go back inside. It's raining, it's cold, so we're gonna go back inside. Once Jasmine gets the older lady back inside, she's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be here. And then she goes on to tell her, I want to go home. And the lady says her address. And the address is the same address that a lot of the forged documents came from when it came to her foreclosure and Grace's assets being cleared out at work. Well, then Jasmine hears a noise downstairs, and Cicely Tyson's like, they're hungry. And I was like, who is they and what do they want? Like, are these the people under the stairs? Like, is this a sequel to that movie? That movie was interesting, Tyler, but you ain't got all that. So Jasmine goes down into the basement and she starts looking around, and child, there is a whole wall of elderly ladies chained down in the basement. There's just flies and it looks nasty and they look sick, and we see somebody coming up behind Jasmine. Ain't nobody but Shannon and his busted ass head. Shannon attacks Jasmine and takes her down. Jasmine then is awoken to being tied up in a chair. She's gagged. She's gagged, honey. And guess who's at the door? Sarah's at the door with old Shannon, and she's gagged again. She's just gagged. And it turns out that Sarah is the mastermind of it all, child. And oh, God. The boyfriend gets there and he tries to take care of it, and Jasmine's able to break loose and she ends up shooting Shannon, and yeah, they go free. Grace is free. All the old ladies are free. Sarah's free. Sarah done got a job and she's about to take over another set of old people, child. And I said I wouldn't go into all of that, but I ended up doing it anyway. And the movie was worth the drag. The movie was worth the drag. Again, it's not a bad movie, but Tyler, there's just so many parts to, like, what are you doing? Like, the judge was at the bench. You can clearly see that the judge has the script in front of him. Like, you can see his highlighted parts and everything. Like, what's going on? What is it? Like, what is it? Are y'all not reviewing the tapes after y'all shoot them? Like, what? Like, what's the tea? Like, I'm really not getting it. I'm really not getting it. Overall, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. And that's been my review of A Fall from Grace, child. That's it. Y'all have a blessed one. If you like to see me review or react to something else, feel free to drop down in the comment section and let me know. Remember to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and remember to ring that notification bell as well, so you can be one of the first people to know when I upload a new video. Until next time, this is Dez, and I'm out.